My BF left me alone in a train station at 9 p.m. Am I dramatic for being annoyed? I just got back from a week-long vacation with my BF to visit his family. We both live in two different cities which are about 1.5 hours away by train. We landed in the airport, which was 3 hours away from my place and 2 hours away from his at 8 p.m. At the beginning of the week, he told me that when we get back home that I could stay at his place for the night since it'll be late and the trains in my country can be super unreliable. However, in the middle of the week, he started asking me about which train I'll get home when we land. I didn't want to question it because I just thought he changed his mind since he seemed to have become drained being around his family, and I felt rude trying to invite myself to his place. We landed, and when we got to the station he told me to buy the ticket to my city. I was honestly quite scared to make the journey since I had a heavy suitcase. It was so late at night. I was in a city I'd only ever been to once. And I had 2 connections in towns that I'd never been to before either. I ended up getting home at 12:30 a.m. and nearly missed one of the last connections due to delays that would have left me in the station overnight. Thankfully, one of my friends was able to pick me up at my city's station and drove me home, and they seemed to be really angry at what my BF had done. I don't know if I'm just being dramatic, but I just felt abandoned by him and that he doesn't really care for my safety. I know I probably should have just asked if I could have stayed, but I just felt so awkward trying to force an invite when he had clearly changed his mind. Am I being dramatic for being annoyed? X200B. It sucks that he left you alone and uncomfortable. But you also shouldn't be afraid to speak up for yourself and your comfort. Communication in a relationship is really important. You definitely should have asked him, "Hey, originally the plan was for me to stay at your place because it would be closer and it's late. Are you still comfortable with that?" And start a dialogue. You're in this together when you're in a relationship. If you wouldn't do this to someone you care about, even just a friend, then you have every right to be annoyed. I think at the core, if you're in a relationship with a person you don't feel comfortable communicating honestly and openly with, then that's a problem. Everything else that's a problem stems from that. Did you ask him why he changed his mind and tell him you didn't feel safe? Is he telling you you're being dramatic? I was in a fickle relationship with a guy like this. Yeah. No. He was entirely unreliable in every way. And ditching me a few times to public transport was just the beginning. Good riddance. He cared more about his own comfort than your safety. Shouldn't have had to ask. He doesn't seem to care about her safety at all. Not dramatic. He's inconsiderate. That's pretty uncool to change the plan and then just leave you late at night to get home on your own. Even when I'm in safe spaces alone, it can feel uneasy. I'm glad you're safe. But like the situation reads, if he's tired, your safety comes second. He reneged the initial agreement in a way that was really greasy, and I would have felt weird pressing someone to host me after that. This is not an issue of communication. Pretending you weren't coming to his house as you'd both discussed was gross. I would not stick around for this kind of bullshit. It was dangerous to be stuck in a transit station all night. If your friend didn't pick up the phone, it could been awful for you. Lugging that heavy suitcase through the dark made you very vulnerable. This is the 4th post I've seen today in which a woman asks Reddit if she should feel bad for expecting people to treat her with basic respect. You feel angry because he cast you aside as though you were completely unimportant. Trust your gut feeling. Girl, I'm telling you right now that if your BF isn't worried or guilty or spending the rest of night looking for you after 9 p.m. and he doesn't know if you're safe at home at that point, drop him. I would have to have had a serious talk with my boyfriend if he did something like that to me. I probably would have spoken up before I was left at the station, but if not, then I wouldn't be able to feel comfortable in the relationship until I had figured out what that was all about. I assume you guys are somewhat serious if he's comfortable having you stay a week with his family. So to me, what he did was extremely questionable. He knew and didn't care. If there were any other signs of him acting cold towards the end of the week during your vacation, I'd say be prepared for a breakup. It seems he has already started to show he doesn't care. Sorry you had to go through that. Nah. Your boyfriend is a jerk. It sounds like he didn't explicitly tell you he had changed his mind and left it to you to figure out. He could have at least said, "Hey, I'm tired. Let's talk about this and figure it out." He could have just gotten on your train with you and stayed at your house. He could have done plenty of things that didn't include leaving you alone at a train station in the middle of the night. He was an asshole. Girl, I didn't leave my female friends alone during college. I had a car and always took them home when we left more than 9 p.m. I drove my male friends too if it was too late. When I was without a car, my boyfriend back then would get out of the comfort of his house to pick me up and drive me home. And he would drive my friends as well if they didn't have a ride or a family member pick him up. Leaving a woman alone to get home at midnight by herself. Fuck him. I would be concerned that he isn't concerned for your welfare. That's quite the red flag. The part where you said you didn't want to be rude and invite yourself over doesn't really apply. He invited you and then changed his mind. I'd be upset too. I'm sorry you found yourself in a potentially scary situation. I'm glad you had a good friend that came to get you. How are you in a serious enough relationship to be meeting his family? And yet you feel unable to communicate a basic request and plan to each other. Instead, leaving absolutely everything to subtext. Why did neither of you actually have a direct conversation when something changed? And why are you so worried about asking your partner for something reasonable? I'm guessing there are other issues in your relationship because this seems wild to me. I wish I'd listened when my then boyfriend did something similar to me. He's telling you quite clearly your safety is not and will never be a priority to him. He'll never change. You can stand up for yourself this time, but he will do it again. Don't be like me and save yourself the pain of letting him do something like this to you a dozen more times before you realize you deserve better. Red flag. You now know he will break his promises to you when he experiences mild frustration or annoyance. You are not being dramatic. I sympathize with his need to spend time alone if he is emotionally drained. But your safety is more important. And you are allowed to say that. It's not rude. He made the wrong choice. So what happened to the original plan of staying the night? He sounds like a total asshole. I don't understand why the comments are so forgiving towards him when him not giving a damn about your safety just so he could get home ASAP to unwind from his annoying family isn't just a red SA. Total deal breaker. You're not being dramatic. The fact you didn't feel comfortable enough bringing up the issue says a lot. You deserve to be with someone that makes you feel safe and heard.